Welcome to Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I'll be covering every studio song the band has recorded and every bonus track that I can find. Each week we'll go over a new song from the beginning to where they are currently, and as they keep adding albums, I'll keep adding shows. Let the deep dive party begin.
In the magic garden, some were singing, some were dancing.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Uriah Heep, the Magician's Podcast. I am your host, Scott Haskin, and today we are going over the last song on the album Return to Fantasy. Now, we still have a couple of bonus tracks to cover, of course, but this would be the last song on the proper album. And it's an interesting one. It was written by Ken Hensley. And, you know, I kind of hesitate always, though, to say who was credited as a writer on the album or a song, because really it's a combination of everyone. Everyone who plays on it puts their own flavor on it. The general idea might have been one person or maybe even the bulk of the song, but, you know, everybody kind of contributes to it. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt as far as who is actually credited on the song. But that is the official credit is to Ken Hensley. I personally thought that the album could have ended beautifully with just "Why Did You Go?" But this is a good song too, and it was a nice addition to the album, so I'm glad that they did put it on there. I was just thinking too that "Your Turn to Remember" and "Why Did You Go" are kind of similar songs put on the second side of the album. I always find album place or song placement on an album very interesting. So I don't know who is making those decisions, but that's certainly an interesting one. But let's get into the song and see what the song itself has to say, because that's why we're here. All the political stuff and what was going on in the band and all that stuff really doesn't matter. What matters is the song, the music. That's what they were here to do, is make that music. And let's hear it. So this is "A Year or a Day" by Uriah Heep off of the album Return to Fantasy. This is really interesting. It's this kind of thing I think would have been a good side starter, like maybe the first song on side 2 with a mood like this. It's kind of interesting to have something so intriguing be on the final song of the album, but I like it. I like its moodiness. I like the fact that there's just these little mysterious guitar effects coming in and out. Really nice, kind of a hint of a melody, but not necessarily what the song will actually be, because we know that they can change things, you know, at the flip of a switch. So it's kind of interesting. You don't really know where it's going for sure, but it's certainly an interesting mood that has been created already to start the song.
Seen from the height of 1,000 miles, the earth looks the same as it did. How is it we can fly faster than day, but we can't find the things we need? Young man, said the old man, let the youth in your heart be at rest. We may all be dead in a year or a day when the devil is put to the test.
Well, you guys know, if you've been following the show for a while, that I love when David Byron sings at this level, where he's, really gentle, but very, very pronounced. I love it. I love the feeling of it. I think it goes very well with the gentleness of the keyboards, the fact that we don't really have a riff going on here or a melody. It's really just driven by the vocal. You have just some nice support and effects in the background, but nothing really defining anything musically. So it gives the singer a lot of open territory as far as where they're going to go. As long as they're within harmony of that foundation, then they're good to go. And, you give a guy like David Byron that kind of room, typically he's going to take good advantage of it. You know, he definitely knew the space that he had to sing in and always covered it very, very well. I'm just trying to find words that really describe what I mean here, because it's hard to say. It's not like he's all over the place, but it's like he knows where he should be in that field, and he just stays there kind of rocking back and forth a little bit. So it's not just like one stagnant note, but very gently sung. And I love when he restrains from the power that we know he has to really just, play for the song. Well, you knew it had to kick in somewhere, and this is a good spot for it. Certainly a surprising way to do it. I love that little effect on the vocal when, David gets a little more aggressive there. But a nice intro to what the melody is. And you really did have the same inflection in the beginning of what it could be. And you're obviously hearing it now with a little more gritty Hammond B3. But it sounds really good. I like it. I like the mix of it. I like the way that everything came in and came together. And it's interesting to see how this song has developed, because that was a rather long, gentle passage. And but it didn't feel repetitive. It didn't feel like it was too long. I didn't feel like, okay, great. Yeah, I get it. Hurry up and get to the song. Like I didn't feel that way at all. I felt very much like a nice warming up build, and let's see where it goes now. That was a nice, powerful part, and I love the backing vocals on this. I often wonder when things don't fit the perfect beginning and ending of a measure, when they try to carry things on a bit longer than that or start on an offbeat. I always wonder how they come to that decision. How are they like, this is the note that we need to come in on? It would be more interesting if we did it here than on the 1, or it would be more interesting if we carried it to the 2 instead of ending on the previous 4. And I definitely feel like there was some kind of conversation or something that happened. The way that this feels is not right on that beat. And I love that. I think it's more interesting. I think it's a nice change, especially just, having our first heavier part in the song. And I love the way it transitions back into something a little more gentle, where we can hear the bass is, going to be a little bit more active.
Lessons firmly settled in our minds, to our children one by one, and before the darkness comes, let us leave a world full of light of a different kind.
Well, I really like the way this is picking up, but I wanted to point out that I really like the delivery on that last vocal line. Something changed up a little unexpected accent there. I don't mean accent as in like foreign language. I mean accent as in like the accent on a note. And that was a nice change. I really like too the way that the music is filling out. I like what I'm hearing on the guitar and the organ. It just it has a nice full sound without the song being really busy. We've had already a couple of ups and downs in this one, and we're only 2.5 minutes in. So we've had a lot going on in that short amount of time, which Uriah Heep is very good at. I mean, they are masters of really monetizing the amount of time that they have in a song. And even the short ones, you feel like, wow, a lot happened in that short amount of time. And the long ones tend to not feel that long. It's really interesting the way that they craft their songs and the performances and how enjoyable it is, that you really kind of lose the perception of actual time when you're listening to these guys.
Truth they should meet, and with love their hearts should beat, and with patience solve the problems of our time. It wouldn't be so hard to do. It's only up to me and
Wow, I love the feel of that. The way that that just thickened up and added like a slightly darker layer to it almost. Really nice. I think there's a little bit of a mixing issue here. The vocals are starting to get a little bit drowned out by some of the instruments coming in. That could be compensated for a couple of different ways. Obviously, for one, you could raise the vocal. Two, you could keep those instruments as busy as they are, but you could drop them, back, like cap where they are in the mix when there's vocals. Or you could pan them a little bit differently so that they're more spread out, and that leaves room for the vocals to cut through a little bit better. But overall, yeah, I really like it. And I just love the way that last part felt. That was the best section so far. Just that the addition of that layering really makes such a difference. Right off the bat, there's a couple things that strike me. The energy is really interesting in this song because it kind of goes up and down quite a bit. It works. It works. I'm not saying that as a bad thing by any means. I like it. I think it's interesting the way that they controlled that so well. Also, it just kind of dawned on me, you've got an amazing guitar player, a fantastic keyboard player, and yet so many of these songs don't have solos in them. I find that very fascinating because they certainly have the talent to show off a little bit, but I like that they're really writing for the song. But certainly in a 4.5-minute song with, two very, very skilled lead players, you would kind of expect that there would be one. So I find it interesting that there isn't. Not necessarily a bad thing. That's just the structure of the song. But, as I think about all these songs that we listen to on the album, there actually aren't really that many solos, which is fascinating because in rock and roll, that's kind of the thing, is to have a guitar or a keyboard solo in there somewhere. So I like that these guys are playing for the song and not playing for vanity, not trying to show off. They're just writing what they feel is solid music. And I have to agree. There's a lot of great dynamics in here that show off their skills where they don't need to be out there saying, hey, look what I can do. But it's a good song. I really like it. The other thing I noticed is there was a bit of a weird transition in there. I'm going to play it back for you, and you guys kind of, see what you make out of it, and then I'll tell you what I think. Going from the verse to the chorus there is such a huge difference in the sound of David in here. And you've got some heavier effects on the verse. And then when it comes to the chorus, those effects are dropped off. You've really got more just straightforward reverb with maybe a touch of chorus on it. But it just stuck out to me because normally the transitions don't sound that dramatic. So I thought that was a little interesting, and I'll play it again so you can hear the difference. So in the verse, you've got more effects. In the chorus, you don't. But the vocals also seem a little bit louder to me too. So certainly they were recorded on different tracks, maybe even different days. I don't know, but it just seemed like an odd transition to me. So just something a little bit different. I mentioned it because it really stuck out to me, and these transitions don't usually seem that abrupt and that varied. So I thought it was a little bit interesting. I certainly love the sound of it, though. I think that having the effect on the verse and not having it on the chorus is nice. I think the chorus sounds really nice and strong, very powerful, good stuff. Also, I want to point out, too, that I thought that John Wetton's performance was fantastic on this. Really got to show off a little bit, see what he could do. I love the sound of his bass playing, too. Just the tones he's getting on that as well. I think it really fits in with the band, and just overall a great song. I think this could have easily been a good album ender. I think that Why Did You Go maybe could have ended the first side. I'd have to see the flow of it. But I do have to say this is a good, solid, powerful way to end the album. Really glad that they included this in the album. I think it's a good song. It's a little bit different. But, that's one of the charms of this band is that they just know how to write interesting songs. They're not stuck in that stigma of this is how a song is written, this is how it should go. They're just writing what they write, what they feel, doing what they feel the song needs. And I think that's part of why I like these guys so much, because they're not stuck in a formula by any means. I mean, they may have done songs that were in that formula, and maybe that's just what worked best for that song. But there's so much that they do that's outside of that, and that makes them interesting. I love their ideas, their melodies, their vocal lines. Everything just comes together for me. And that's why I've always been a fan of Uriah Heep. So that being said, that was A Year or a Day, guys. And, from a vocal concept, it's certainly interesting. It's certainly we could have anything change today. Some things might not change for a year. Some things may never change. That's just life, and you have to learn to roll with it. But it's certainly one of those things that reminds you to, not spend time doing things that don't make you happy. Don't get caught up in arguments and all that stuff. Just go live your life, do things that are good, do things that are good for yourself, for other people, and just enjoy it while you have it to enjoy. If this pandemic hasn't taught us anything else, that should be the lesson, as well as this song. We'll see you guys tomorrow for Friday's episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast. In the meantime, have a great day. Cheers. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Uriah Heep, the Magicians Podcast. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider going over to Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast outlet, leaving a rating or a review. Be sure to subscribe to make sure that you are notified when new episodes are available. Please be sure to share this podcast with your fellow Uriah Heep enthusiasts and anyone who you think would like Uriah Heep, which should be everyone. And if you are so inclined, please feel free to contribute to the Patreon account. And if you are not a Patreon subscriber, you can also pay through the PayPal link on the website listed in the show links below. I would also like to thank Uriah Heep for their very generous support of the show. And thank you guys for listening. We'll see you in the next episode. Happy days!